I've received some requests for a video about salt-free cooking and maintaining a mostly salt-free household. So I'd like to share some of those tips and tricks with you today. So first of all, a disclaimer. We're not entirely salt-free, especially my kids, mostly just because we do take price into consideration and also convenient sometimes. So I try, for example, to get salt-free canned beans whenever possible, but it's not always possible. So when we use salted beans, we just rinse them really well. If you have high blood pressure or you're trying to reverse disease, please go the extra mile and make sure everything you're eating is salt free if you want to use diet to really reverse disease. But for us at this point now, it's really about just keeping ourselves as healthy as we can. So for the most part, we're salt free now, but certainly, especially my kids, definitely use sodium. Even they'll sometimes lightly salt their vegetables or something, and I'm okay with that. The other area that we get some salt in is for my kids, some hot sauces and mustards. I try to get as low sodium as I can. Also relish, dill relish. They like that sometimes on beans, plain beans that I've cooked up in the Instant Pot. So we do that as well. Again, I try to get as low sodium as I can. And they're actually already aware of like how it makes them really thirsty and stuff. So sometimes even my youngest will be like, I think I've had enough salt today. I'm really thirsty. And you'll choose a different condiment. I make salt-free ketchup, salt-free hot sauces, and salt-free mustards. And for the most part, that is all my husband eats for his condiments. Most of my recipes on this channel are either exclusively salt-free or I give you options for getting rid of the salt. And again, it's usually like I throw a can of beans in there that has some salt in it simply because I couldn't get salt-free chickpeas, for example, easily and for a reasonable price. So again, you can always make any of these recipes basically salt-free, even baking soda and baking powder, if you choose to use those, which I very rarely do, you can get them salt-free. So do what you need to do to reach your health goals. Okay, so my biggest tip is if you're missing flavor, if you're trying to transition away from a salted diet, first of all, try not to use it in your cooking. I throw garlic and onion into pretty much everything I cook for my husband because he loves a lot of flavor. I know I'm a weird duck, but I actually just love like literally plain boiled grains, plain steamed potatoes. I hardly even use salt-free condiments anymore. I just love natural foods. So I know I'm odd in that way, but you need to figure out what works for you. He loves flavor, so he uses a lot of hot sauces. Certain mixes like this, you just have to read ingredients. It's just herbs and spices. Same with most of the Mrs. Dash seasonings. I use a ton of dried herbs. So our go-tos, the ones I use the most, are probably turmeric, cinnamon, vanilla, cumin, probably basil, parsley. Two people in our house love smoked paprika. But really, I'm constantly throwing in more herbs and spices. So I just say explore. You have to decide what you like, figure out what flavors you enjoy and just stick to those. Another really helpful tip, if you are transitioning away from salt, you got to try this. Use on the top of your food lemon juice, lime juice, balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, rice vinegar, red wine vinegar. Try sprinkling a little bit of that on your food, and it actually gives it sort of a salty taste. You just got to try it, see again if it sings to you, if you enjoy that, if it makes your food more satisfying. Personally, I love apple cider vinegar. I actually have to be careful not to overdo it because it can cause my throat to burn. So be careful. But yeah, my husband loves balsamic vinegar. My kids like the flavor of lime juice in certain recipes too. So you just gotta experiment what you enjoy. I sometimes throw red wine vinegar into our basic rice and bean recipe, and that adds a really neat, complex flavor to it. Another thing that I love and I eat more than anyone else in the house is dulse and nori. I love like just ripping them up and putting them on top of, especially, let's say, my vegetable soup that I pretty much eat some version of every day. By the way, I use lettuce leaves often as like the spoon, sort of, and that gets some raw greens into me really easily. And I just love the combination of cooked and raw veggies. Anyway, and the last thing that came to mind when I was thinking about this video was uh, nutritional yeast, sprinkling a little bit of that on top of food. We don't overdo that. I can't say that we use that all that often, but I do use it in recipes. It adds a unique flavor. So again, just different ways of adding lots of flavor without salt. And this is a cool one that we only discovered this maybe, I don't know, 6 months to a year ago. And it's really neat. It kind of has a lemony flavor to it that sort of tickles the taste buds that I think are next to the salt receptors on your tongue. I don't know exactly, but I think that's how it works. I just like the flavor of it. It has a really neat flavor. My husband loves it, so sometimes I just sprinkle it on top of whatever else I made. It tends to go with any recipe I find for the most part. I have not tried cooking with it, but why not? I don't know. It'd be worth trying. Like I said, I also make salt-free hot sauces, mustards, and ketchup for our family pretty regularly. I pretty much always have salt-free hot sauce and mustard in the fridge now for my husband. But there are also a few like this one. We for a long time we bought Brew Brothers hot sauce, salt-free hot sauce, but it just like wasn't available recently. That's one reason I started making my own because we were having trouble getting it. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Please consider liking and subscribing. If you did, leave a comment below if you have other tips and tricks for keeping it simple in the salt-free cooking arena.